he was separated from a lot of the other members because they had all scattered. Both teams played that game incredibly well. It was such a fun game. I really want CE to win this just so we can go to Game 5. This series has been absolutely amazing. But I have some bad news. Whereas CE, up until this series, won every game on Sky, they have lost every game on Dragon that they have played in this tournament. It is not their strong point, and we know Dragon is the new hot for MVP Black. They love this map now.
What if they just Sylvanas again, though? That is a route that they can get away with on a map like this. It's not as good as an Infernal Shrines, but at least if you don't commit to maybe the Sylvanas specifically as a character, at least the play style, right? A bit more focus onto that onto the map pressure and being able to open up the map early stages, because even though MVP Black is an amazing team and Dragon Shire, they're rather successful currently on it, I would argue they still fail to be effective with keeping early game pressure if it doesn't involve them anchoring and threatening lethal in the Bermuda Triangle. If they just are suddenly responsive to wave clear on the other side, I think they could suddenly kind of fall apart.
Yeah, it just feels like so many people approach MVP Black the same way, which is that Rich is going to win the solo lane, which puts us at a disadvantage. We have a problem. Now we need to draft so that we can set up a 2-1-2, and then they end up losing in the bottom lane or somewhere else. But if they can do kind of what they did on Braxis, potentially, which is have a ton of rotations between lanes, make sure that they dominate the bottom lane heavily, and then get some structures early. Maybe that is the way of being able to beat MVP Black, Jayha.
Yeah, and you talked about how this was kind of like the new best battleground when we talk about MVP Black. And if you actually look, sometimes you say, hey, this is a good meta for this team, or a good meta for this player, or vice versa. This is a meta on a battleground that heavily favors a lot of what MVP likes to do with their drafts. And I think this is why Dragon Shire could be a potential tough matchup here for CE, recognizing that Illidan could be a potential part of that, already hovering that for the ban.
There's Illidan to consider, there's Malthael to consider, and there's potentially now Rich Dahaka to consider. We may see CE make some changes as to who is their most important first pick. But if MVP Black lets Ariel through, I don't know that we'll see CE be willing to give that one up.
I think it would be a very surprising game if they were able to give that up. Also, mainly because it just kind of falls into that playstyle that I hope to see CE transition to into this game. Just the biggest thing is make sure that they pick a composition that can dictate the pace of the bottom half of the map and take out front walls. And if they do so, I think you can suddenly see a very responsive MVP Black. And when MVP Black doesn't feel in control of the game, they suddenly do play a lot more aggressive and not always in a positive manner, as we saw like that crazy everybody staggered death throwing bodies at a team fight through that last game.
Guys, I feel like we can expect the Genji here from MVP Black. Obviously taking Uther over that, not willing to commit to that for yourself, doesn't necessarily fit potentially your roster. So with Tassadar off the board, we talked about the potential for another Malthael game. Would it be too early to commit to that and risk it being banned out on the second ban?
Good call on the Genji. I am a little surprised not to see Black put more focus on their solo laner, but it seems like even on Dragon Shire, where they put a lot of emphasis into it, making sure that they have a good solo laner to win and dominate these structures so that they can get a lot of ganks later on, they're still keeping to making sure that they can respond and ensure that they have the better solo laner by seeing what CE wants up their sleeves first.
I think by being second pick, it allows them to just fit it in the last spot. Because if you go early Malthael, we saw their hard counters to him last game. And if you just kind of wait until that, because you do have the last pick, you can kind of see what your opponent's going to be doing, as we see that Dahaka's picked up. So now you can feel more confident going into what solo laner you want, seeing what type of damage they're going to come into. Obviously, the Uther Greyman is a good combination, but it's still gives you the flexibility in your draft to make sure that maybe there's not another Brightwing in there. Maybe there's something along those lines to where you can feel more comfortable in draft. I think that's what they're going to be doing.
China was the first region to kind of come up with and standardize the 2-1-2, but they were also the first to implement kind of an alternative version to it that was a 1-3-1 with the same intent of getting pressure on one half and then getting pressure onto the other. And it typically involved an absurdly dominant solo laner like a Dahaka and then another wild one like a Zagara. And so I'm not going to say we'll see it into this game, but I wouldn't hate that concept if we saw them transition into it, because we're all worried about the top lane. what if the top laner isn't Dahaka, right? You bait them into going, well, we can beat the Dahaka with insert this hero. Suddenly they're dealing with the most oppressive solo laner in the game, known as Zagara, and if you manipulate those 4-man properly, you control the lanes. If you control the lanes of Dragonshire, you pretty much control the game. I'm not saying it's what we can see, but last time I suggested we see a huge shift in macro and dynamic play. CE did it, executed it, and won the game. Because of it, I would argue, and beautiful execution.
Okay, so Sake Falstad terrifies me here if you give that up to MVP Black. But then at the same time, banning Brightwing gives you the flexibility to either go Malthael, and if you ban Malthael and you look at the Falstad, you still leave open the Illidan. Unless you intend to take that yourself, you give up that potential last pick Illidan. Because, like I said, having the last pick here for MVP Black, they can get their support here, get the Falstad potentially, and then just flex that last hero, whether it's going to be the Arthas. I love where MVP Black's going. They end up going Li Ming, though. I feel like it's got to be Illidan, though, at the end.
I mean, now I'm not so sold. A double reset composition with an Illidan behind it. Talk about extremely high risk.
Glass cannon.
Yeah, full glass cannon composition. I mean, with the display that they have had in the past and like the priority they had on the Illidan, I wouldn't run it by, especially considering the Malfurion beyond that. But I don't look at that and go, I really enjoyed the idea of an Illidan here. I'm actually pretty concerned now with seeing that rotation from MVP. They have set themselves extremely vulnerable to, again, macro control onto a map and not just raw team fighting. And this map doesn't accent that or enforce that style of play.
Well, maybe they're still going to get Arthas, which functions well as that solo laner and does seem to be the priority. If Rich has to play double warrior, he plays that Arthas.
Arthas and potentially, I know there's an Uther on the other side and a Dahaka there, but depending on what these two picks are, diving deep down the rabbit hole with maybe a Chen.
Oh, man.
And hello, Nazebo face, but Nazebo is not what I expected here.
I mean, we saw it from them yesterday, I believe, on Dragonshire. Going into, we did see it from them in the Illidan.
All
and
right.
the variant was with the intent of seeing the Illidan, I believe.
So
but now they have a losing matchup into the top lane while running a slow 4-man into a pretty lethal 4-man composition without dominant wave clear. And this is now kind of highlighting. I just essentially, you're taking your opponent's biggest strengths and playing into them, it feels like, with those last two.
So there's two folds. I know we're going to get into the game quick. There's two folds there. Is that they banned the Brightwing. They wanted to see if it was a potential there. There's still some hard counters to it. But then you look at the fact of a Genji and a Li Ming. Heavy on the mage damage. Despite getting those auto attacks out, Dragon becomes a superstition for Nazebo at 13. Looked really appealing until the Illidan showed up.
Yeah, I would agree. No longer will we likely have the superstition. Didn't have it in the last game either, although there was even more auto attack damage. This is it for CE. To continue forward, they must win the next 2 games versus MVP Black. They are the sole representative for China. They are CE in the blue. Shy, Aloof Fool, Paradise, Wind, and Suyu.
Up 2 games in the red, repping the Cloud9 mount, is going to be the members of MVP Black. We got Tis, Sake, Rich, Reset, and Kyocha.
Lions Ma to kick things off. Not immediately indicative of anything different. In fact, that is still very standard to get that particular talent. Get the increased slow once you can finish that quest, and then still move into Shield Wall.
Let's just get wild and entertain the idea that this isn't going to be a taunt variant.
All right.
The only other option I really can see it being under these circumstances is going into the Colossus Smash.
Yeah.
I just don't see... Wow, Reset getting caught out very early there. He just got deleted. I looked at you for 1 second, looked back, and he's gonzo.
CE, every game versus MVP Black, everybody mid. We're going mid. MVP Black ended up using that against them last game on towers to go take out a tower in the bottom lane. Just like, they're going to go mid, so we'll just go get a free tower. And that bottom lane ended up being an issue for CE. But this time, MVP Black were willing to take the fight, and they'll pay for it. They may pay for it again.
Rich maybe getting caught out a little bit too far. Paradise was healed up there by Alufo once more. Flask is going to connect their max range on that.
The positioning of CE was so ridiculously good. Alufo comes in, waits to see where he's going to dive, but is forward so that he can still hit the stun after the dive. My goodness, CE. Who is this team?
They also had the foresight of realizing MVP Black wanted to prioritize that top lane because they do like making sure that Rich is an absolute problem into the northern lane, and that was enough for them to find themselves just essentially debate. It's like, if you want to get that, we're going to open up, and then Reset goes in, try and stop the bleeding. They weren't able to do so.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping from CE, is that they continue to make those rotations, but Suyu is a primary point. He cannot die because of the way he's able to stall out lanes, clear them out. Losing Suyu at any point would be devastating to CE because they are going to lose some to the poke of MVP Black in that bottom lane.
See the patience of CE up here. They really want to be able to stop this up to the top lane. And this is a really weird circumstance that we find ourselves under, because now MVP Black should stop worrying about Rich and start worrying about the bottom half of the map. Use the fact that they have a deadly 4-man into a very weak and slow 4-man on the side of CE. CE is going to put so much concern there up in the top. Paradise, wants to push in, otherwise he shows the bait too early. Shy with the misclick there, it feels like showing and revealing himself maybe a bit too early.
Yeah, Paradise has all the essence necessary. There's going to be a stun, but Rich now has friend or foe, so these ganks on Rich become a little more difficult for CE now that he has hit 4.
The reason, hold on a minute here. No way is this going to be, okay, Li Ming is going to transition upwards, and Zeebo's going to get on bottom. But CE has to worry about top because they have a losing matchup. It's not the same case for MVP Black. That's a, we're used to playing this way problem. We're used to Rich dominating the top half of the map. We're used to camping this top lane, not considering, again, compositional advantage comparative to your opponent and playing around it.
Yeah.
And so this is, though it didn't look that bad in that gank, this is essentially MVP Black going on autopilot and going, this is what we've known, and it hasn't looked terrible, but they are very much not playing according to their opponent.
Yeah, CE are being able to manipulate MVP Black in this game, pulling people up because of the constant ganks. Now they've got the bruisers too. Rich is going to go in, but it's a 2v2. I thought it was a 2v2 up at the top. It will be soon with a whole lot of members of CE rotating up. And again, Paradise using that essence. He even has tissue regeneration. So this is a Paradise who is making sure that he, as a Dahaka, can be still aggressive while making sure that he, when he retreats, has the healing back up to allow people to come in, rotate in, and help him out.
Still the 3 members of MVP Black trying to make something happen on top, and suddenly they lose too many sacrifices on the bottom of the half of the map. Paradise, though, does end up going down on top. That is a huge victory for MVP. Otherwise, their time, efforts, everything would have been wasted over the past couple of minutes here. But I do like that CE has suddenly put a bit more emphasis towards trying to abuse the 2-man that is bottom half of the map here. And talk about one in a lifetime version of watching Shire be played this way. I've never seen, ever, this much focus into the top lane.
I haven't either. But MVP Black leaving at least Tist in the bottom lane and having the Giants there functioned as almost another hero, enough to push back CE finally off of that Shrine, which was the only thing keeping from Black getting this first Dragon Knight of the game.
He's going to be able to use that zombie wall. It's enough. Oh my gosh, and walking around the fort means that no shuriken, no magic missiles.
The B steps. I'm done.
You're done? You're walking away?
That's amazing.
Go ahead, drop the mic. CE here is willing to even B-step up onto MVP Black here. The top lane now is not looking as bad as it had into the past. The only time I feel like I want to see CE concerned towards top is get the bro. Nope, not in time. No passive. Dead Paradise.
MVP Black climbing further and further ahead, even though CE came out with the unique strategies, the unique laning solution to MVP Black's style of Shire. Things seem to have stabilized to the norm for MVP Black. They take out a fort, it is in the mid, will limit the rotations a lot for CE, which has been the biggest boon for them in their way that they're playing out this map. It also lets them set up things like this, more aggressive ganks.
Oh, he burrows, or brush talked in. That is just, he's dead again, immediately. Beautiful camp there from MVP Black. Now it's going to lead to a lot of pressure up to the top. They have the 10 advantage. Things are crumbling, but those first couple of minutes for CE, seriously, were very cleverly done, very well executed. It's just, can they find a minute when they get the 10s to be able to turn this game back around? Because double structure opening, if top fort being crippled, they already have a losing matchup. Not like this.
The problem, too, with CE, the way that they drafted again, is they're banking on being able to have that late game. They had a Varian with Taunt. Now he has Taunt, so 10 is where he starts to spike. But they still are waiting on Nazebo to be able to hit the power spike for him, 16 and 20 with the Spider build. So the way MVP Black, though, is playing this out, they have heroes who can immediately turn on. I mean, Li Ming can get resets right out of the gates, and things get a lot better for her as she gets Calamity. The damage there. You've got Dragon Blade now for Genji. Black's composition just gets aggressive far earlier than CE, and CE has to figure out how much are they willing to lose, how much is okay to lose, so that they can make it to the late game where they are going to be able to come back in the game.
To be fair, though, I did feel as if because CE's lack of pressure into the 4, I thought that they would be way farther behind than they are right now. So, though I agree, I'm not that saddened by the circumstances. Like, I'm thinking maybe there's a chance that we see the late game Nazebo come online.
Absolutely, yeah. There is still an opportunity, largely because the forts in top and bottom especially still remain.
Well, stalling out the Dragon Knight is going to be the first step if CE wants to make it to that level 20 as long as they can. The 13 Talonteers closed in VP with a rather large lead there into that. Black is either.
There they go. Reset jumps in. Shire in the back gets Divine Shield. Aloof Fool taking some damage to ensure that Shire can escape. Wind still does have the Protect. There's a second charge being used.
And then the kill leads to the Dragon Knight. Smart decision making there coming out from Reset. No surprise though. Sometimes it's as easy as basic math in one of the few cases.
And the whole time, Illidan has been up in the top. Tahaka had to go back after receiving so much damage and pressure from there. Wind, Taunt.
Ancestral and Avatar are going to be used together there. Maybe not necessarily needing both, but MVP Black does not care. They are getting upset here. They're ready to punish CE, and they're doing a very effective job. Gargantuan's actually body blocking? Is that even a thing? Kyocha there for a second. Shuyu does end up going down. I didn't think it has a hitbox. It doesn't, does it? All right. I was like, he's stuck there in the corner? He was just dodging the slam. My bad.
Nobody puts Garg in the corner. Garg doesn't put anybody in the corner.
Garg doesn't put Kyocha in the corner?
Yes. Well, MVP Black doing, again, what we knew would happen once they're able to start getting the necessary amount of kills, taking down the structures. It's opening up the battleground. With this Dragon Knight, they have taken out all of the forts, which just makes rotations and stopping future Dragon Knights even harder for CE at this point. So where do things turn around for CE?
I would like to tell you it's in the near future, but sadly I don't feel like it's going to be, mainly because we see 3 forts down. Not what that means structurally, not what that means in experience, but it means Illidan doesn't hate being Illidan on Dragonshire any longer. Obviously he's been enjoying his time up into the 1v1s, but when it comes to true team fighting, he suddenly is a very effective hero. The map pressure and control coming from the other side of the table is too effective, mixed with the efficiency that they have onto the ganks. Overall, how I see this game, if CE is to recover, it is essentially playing as slow and as defensive as you possibly can until you catch up 16 to 19, maybe take that fight. And if you somehow can make it beyond that, be willing to go for the 20 spike. But I'm talking you're losing keeps level of slow play. And I don't think MVP Black's a team that you can necessarily take those risks on.
Yeah, if they have the opportunity to get structures, they're going to get structures. They'll steal away camps. That's what we see them doing right now. And they will look for an opportunity to end this game as early as they can because CE spikes later. And that is really the one shot that CE at this point has of being able to come back against MVP Black, is punishing them for overextension. But in the pickup of Juggernaut for Varian, doing that percent-based damage with his charge, and the pickup of Rich with that great drag by Paradise.
I mean, that's another one, too. Just abuse the fact that Rich wants to feel dominant. I didn't think about that at first glance, but now watching it in execution, I feel like Rich has a timer that he gets very used to when he's left alone for long periods of time, and he suddenly forgets that the minimap is a thing, and that there are, in fact, people on the other side of the table that would like to end up getting a kill on top of him. So I expect with that gank there, we'll see him play passive, efficient 1v1ing for the next couple of minutes. About 2 minutes later, he might overextend, and if CE punishes that again, that's a lot closer to the experience than I had originally calculated when talking about the disadvantage they face. Again, still unlikely, but more possible than I originally projected.
Well, Juggernaut and Cursed Bullet might mean that they're targeting Tist in team fights. But even still, CE do not have Dahaka here, and they really do not want to force him to come down. So they're going to back off away from MVP Black and clear out the mercenary camp as safely as they can, allowing MVP Black plenty of time to get the bottom shrine. Dahaka is not going to go for the 1v1 in the top shrine at all either, so they're willing to eat one more MVP Black Dragon Knight, getting them Spider Colony, getting them 16, likely to lose a keep here, but hopefully not the game.
16 is a huge power spike for that Nazebo, but it's not as much as that 20. You feel like an above-average hero at the 16. You feel like a legend when you got that 20 mark.
But still, Benediction, Tunneling Claws, Executioner or Alpha Killer, depending on what the target is for Greymane.
The main reason I'm concerned about Nazebo specifically is he's their best Dragon Knight defender. So if he gets the Spider Colony and gets the 16 with the CDR, remains at the proper HP, suddenly that Dragon Knight is not maybe going to get, but they need to make sure they get it. And now Dahaka has neglected the experience up on top. They do end up getting that. Shy eating a orb that he might not necessarily want, but see the spiders now, they're going to be wailing away. Reset suddenly going to struggle at getting a kill onto the Dragon Knight. And I mean, this is a very old strategy, but one that the Chinese region has shown in the past. They use things like Sergeant Hammer, Nazebo, and I'm thinking of Zagara to be able to just rid of the Dragon Knight. It used to be doubled Hydralisk with just one-shot it, essentially.
They're going to take the fight behind. The Dragon Knight slowed down, and Shuyu's doing what he can to take it out. But Paradise not immediately catching somebody, and Illidan is just now coming in.
This is the 16 into 19 that we were talking about before. This is one window, and the other one is going to be very keepless and very much more risky for CE. It looks like they kind of won it. Nazebo thrown around.
Win steps forward. MVP Black's backing off. Can they actually escape? They have a fort to go to, so there's a limited amount of time. Win charges in, drag behind. Ancestral Healing doesn't land. Murden taken out by CE.
And the hunt coming in there for Rich a bit too late. And well, I mean, if the Ancestral connected, you would argue not too late, but one of the two has to go down here. MVP Black just not quite on the same page, but by no means does this mean CE is back online. They still have the 2-level deficit. We're still closing in on that awkward 20 window, and if that's hit, I don't know if Murden alive or not, it's not going to matter. MVP Black, because of their map pressure, should be able to control another Dragon Knight. That Dragon Knight should lead to the bottom keep. But CE actually is reasonably... You can expect them standing a chance in this game now. They have waited long enough, installed the game far enough to where, yeah, they'll be down and keep, but they will be able to hit the Nazebo 20 if they choose to do so.
Paradise has played impeccably well, making sure that he did get ganked a couple of times, cleaned up his play a lot, making sure that he is staying out, getting them experience as best they can, but not overextending and making a pressure point for MVP Black to punish. And that is so important as we continue to get longer and longer cooldown timers, respawn timers whenever somebody dies. A lot of people off the map, Wind hanging out around, seeing if there's going to be an invade on top of these bruisers. CE hoping to get these, hoping to push out against the bruisers of MVP Black as they still, once again, will be down the final talent tier in this game.
So we're going to know what CE's mentality is based on how they react to this Dragon Knight phase, and more importantly, when the Dragon Knight's picked up, how do they react to the Dragon Knight going bottom? And if they end up all-inning and zoning off of the core, then they're in a position to where you can very much see them just buying time, not wanting to totally take the fight, just deterring MVP Black from ending the game. That is what I hope to see from them, stalling for that 20. But... you know, emotions could get in the way here. Maybe they think that the 16 spike is enough to be able to take it out. I'm just curious to see. They already have aggressive positioning, and that scares me.
They're posturing. Tist will be the first one to check this. Checks it with his face. That's all right. He's a Murden. They come in with a Storm Bolt. A couple of stacks of shield wall being used by Wind.
Really good kiting so far. Reset's already set down to 65%. One more Nazebo Q.
Actually used it on the minion wave, which softens that up for the follow-up cocktail.
There it is.
Zombie womp.
Yeah, Dragon Knight's good. This is exactly what they wanted. It doesn't even matter if that keep goes down. Obviously, they wanted to stay alive, but this is, without a doubt, we've hit 20. And with the way that MVP Black's been playing stages, you know, at the probably 3-level lead on, they haven't gotten enough advantage out of it necessarily for me to feel like this is out of control. I feel like CE is going to be able to pull away this game as long as they don't end up staggering deaths.
Rich hunted in, Ancestral Healing forced on top of him. Divine Shield also used resets, used Dragon Blade, so he's looking to keep this alive as long as he possibly can. The keep has gone down.
And see, this is where I expect CE to disengage because they don't want to take the fight into 20, but Reset is doing a good job. The Dragon becomes him, keeping that Dragon Blade on up, but they now walk away. A bit more aggressive than I expected out of CC. CE, they kind of
towed the line.
Yeah, a little bit too close there, but they did it. And everything now is fine in the world of Nazeebo. He is about to find himself a sweet, sweet little home here at the 20 stage mark. And
how funny would it be if we've talked it up, we've hyped it up, and then he didn't go Vile Infection?
Like, you use the
There's
word
not a
funny, and I
world.
just feel like our definitions are not the same. Because
Fair.
otherwise, I feel like this game might be over. Paradise, oh, he's just flat dead. The adaptation proc, he needs it. He doesn't get it, and now the member's here too late.
That's rough. MVP Black are able to take him out, which limits a lot of the side soaking, the safe soaking that CE have while they're still trying to get 220. There's a mercenary camp in the bottom lane, as well as the catapults that our wonderful observer is showing. There's no keep stopping. And as you can see, Sake took Archon Pure Power to Siege all day.
This is a brilliant talent adjustment for Sake. The biggest problem they've had is sieging into the Nazeebo and during the Dragonite, which is a single target, which is more likely for the Nazeebo to be able to blow up. But if Sake is a threat as well when it comes to the siege, because you know Genji and Illidan aren't necessarily doing that.
Shuyu does not have Ice Block.
Divine Shield's going to be used on top of him. That's not the target you want, but it's not the end of the world. They've got themselves a Nazeebo still online. Illidan is spread away from the members of MVP Black, but he does have the Hunt coming online in 25 seconds. 13 away before the Dragonite goes up. Shy putting out poke. At the end of the day, though, CE hit the 20 spike, but being a man down and positionally at a huge disadvantage during this Dragonite, the 20 that we've been talking about might not matter.
It was a little too far away for Dahaka to respawn and stalk in. You could see CE's mentality. They wanted to keep MVP Black in the mid. They wanted to slow them down so Dahaka could come in and grab somebody. But unfortunately for them, just a few more seconds would have made the difference of them being able to do that. But Black, understanding when they needed to disengage, did just that. CE focusing on getting the bottom shrine. They did not take Apex Predator. Survivability, far more important to Paradise at this stage of the game. So they want to focus on having bottom, pushing that out as far as they can to make sure that the catapults don't push all the way in.
What that does do, though, is means that they will be behind on a global advantage as long as Rich gets auto attack resets with the Hunt. And I expect him to constantly have near 100% uptime if he has the option to do so, which now means when Paradise hits Z, it needs to matter. It needs to be effective. They need a kill. Not generally what you say when you have a Nazeebo composition. So curious adjustment on talents, but I'm ready to see how they make it happen. You already see Rich just bullying there up into the top lane. He's the Knight supporting him. He will be able to get that keep if nobody else responds, and that is why this is just a matter of time here for CE. They have to figure out what they need to do.
It's only Dahaka there as the Bruisers start to push in. CE are going to move upwards, hoping that they maybe can catch somebody on the way up, but also making sure that they're keeping guard of the Dragonite. There's no more free Dragonites to be given to MVP Black. There is no keep in the bottom lane, and we are at 20 minutes in.
There's no other taunt area they can be. He throws out the taunt. Oh, nice ice block. It dodged the Hunt, too.
This is where CE has to make their stand.
The problem is no matter how much you want to call it a stand, it's more of a MVP Black. Do you want to make a mistake? It's begging for a poor mistake. But Reset almost made it. He goes in, got punished very effectively there, thanks to the cursed bullet from Shy. Illidan's waiting for somebody to make a misplay, specifically to Haka on bottom. He's solely waiting for that brush stock, assuming that he won't brush stock up on top. No, he's going to retreat now. Okay, convert back in. We don't have the Hunt for another 20 seconds. He's willing to go back and force that 1v1.
Dahaka staying top. The bottom lane's starting to become more and more of an issue. There's only a couple of waves left as it's moved past the shrine at the halfway point. Tistu's Hardened Shield jumping into the fight, looking to force it.
4 seconds before the Hunt comes back online. Dragon Blade is going to drop. Paradise taking a lot of damage here, but he will be able to heal out, but it forces a burrow charge. Shuyu is under pressure. Gargantuan trying to get the DPS outward. The poison is ticking away, and there's the ice block.
The focus was on Tis, but they just can't take him down. Now the Hunt comes in. Divine Shield keeps Shy alive, but Shuyu is down. Already one taken out, and the Reset starting to come in for Reset as he takes down 3. Uther will come back, but even still, a team wipe. taking out CE.
Dragon Knight or not, it does not matter. That is 5 men down. MVP Black are going to claim themselves the 4th game here on Dragon Shire, and more importantly, they are going to be able to win this series over CE, eliminating the final Chinese team and making this 3 Korean teams standing at the Eastern Clash.
MVP Black gets the first victory in what has to be victory after victory after victory if they are going to stand a chance of being able to claim the championship title that they were essentially promised. They felt like it was going to be theirs. Everyone said it's going to be MVP Black. All the Korean teams we talked to said it'll be a miracle. We need to be lucky if we could beat MVP Black. And yet CE at least were able to take 1 game off of them, but in the end, our final Chinese team has been eliminated from the Eastern Clash.
And it's not just that they took 1 game off MVP Black. It's the fashion in which they did it, and it's the fashion in which they played in defeat. They pushed MVP Black to the edge. It seemed like in every single game. You take that Towers game, that is stuff of legend when you see Reset at the end of that game, for them to turn that around. The mouth they'll pick up at level 20, things like that. It was just so hard to counter, and CE has surprised me a lot. It was unfortunately didn't make it to midseason brawl, and it was a team I was really looking forward to, and the fact that I get to be here at the Eastern Clash to see them perform here, I'm actually really happy for as far as they made it to represent the China region, and they can do it pridefully, I think, with their showing this weekend.
I would say that though we do typically have visa problems with the Chinese teams, there always seems to be one every single time that even though they're playing with a sub, they come out and they surprise everyone. And whenever that happens, it was E-Star at the midseason brawl, right? Like everybody's just sitting there going like, these guys are just amazing. Granted, it's not the roster that you typically expected and wanted to see coming out from the region, the one they practice with. But at the end of the day, you always just gotta, tip your hat and be like, you might not have won the tournament, but at least you won, especially in our hearts, right? Because they just play their heart out.
CE, unfortunately, we say goodbye to them, but MVP Black carries on. Let's get a word from our victors in that series with Trixler at the stage.
Quite the nail-biter of a series here with MVP Black getting the victory over CE. And I'm here with Reset from the team. Reset, I gotta ask you about game number 2 on Infernal Shrines. Was the Sylvanas pick something that surprised you, or do you think CE has more skill than a lot of people thought they had here coming into the tournament?
예, 두 번째 경기 때 CE한테 졌잖아요. CE가 잘해서 진 거예요? 아니면 MVP가 못해서 이긴 거예요?
물론 CE가 저희가 두 번째 경기에서 좀 많이 엇갈렸어요. 팀원 간 호흡이 많이 엇갈렸고 CE가 잘했던 것도 있는 것 같아요.
He said that for game 2, MVP Black had a lot of mistakes that they were not expecting, but at the same time too, no disrespect to CE, they also played very, very well.
Well, in regards to teams playing very well, Tempest at the moment is absolutely destroying a lot of teams in this tournament. How do you evaluate their skill versus yours?
지금 이스턴 클래시 와서 템페스트 지금 잘하고 있잖아요. 그거에 한마디 해주세요. 템페스트의 실력이요.
저희가 이미 템페스트한테 져서 페다드로 내려와가지고 근데 이번에는 아마 이겨서 꼭 결승으로 가도록 하겠습니다.
Okay, he said, obviously Tempest is doing very well because that's the reason why we're in the losers bracket. But we're about to go against them right now, and we feel that we're going to beat them.
So you're looking for revenge?
복수를 하고 싶은 거죠?
네, 그렇죠.
Of course.
Reset looking for the revenge on the next series of the day, and that's coming up next after a commercial break. MVP Black taking on Tempest.
Introducing HGC Cheer to bring more hype to Asia.